Let us begin with a difficult truth. The most painful betrayals are not born from a lack of love, but from a failure of perception. A man, clouded by the passions of hope or fear, often chooses to ignore the subtle signals, the inconsistencies in behavior that his own reason is presenting to him. And here is the harsh reality. A woman's infidelity often leaves a different kind of trace than a man's. While a man might leave obvious clues, a woman's signals are frequently more subtle, more psychological, and hidden in plain sight. This guide is an exercise in the Stoic discipline of prosocial, of paying attention. It is about sharpening your perception so you can see reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. This is not a manual for paranoia. A Stoic does not waste his precious energy on anxious suspicion. Instead, this is a tool for clarity. It is about understanding that human behavior, especially in moments of great emotional conflict, leaves traces. A disciplined mind can learn to read them. The average man ignores these signs until it is too late. He dismisses a shift in her energy as a mood swing, or a gap in her story as simple forgetfulness. He chooses the comforting illusion over the difficult truth. But a man on the Stoic path has a duty to face reality. In this guide, we will break down 7 powerful indicators, 7 subtle shifts in her body language, her emotions, and her words that can reveal when her intimacy has been invested elsewhere. The goal is not to control her. That is an external and forever outside your power. The goal is to ensure you are never a victim of your own denial. Sign 1. Sudden distance after intimacy. The first and most powerful giveaway that something is off is a sudden and unnatural distance that appears immediately after you have been intimate. Normally, when a woman is emotionally invested, the act of intimacy draws her closer. It is a moment of connection that lingers. She will want to cuddle, to talk, or to at least exist in a shared space of warmth. But when she has recently been with someone else, the dynamic changes completely. Instead of closeness, you will notice a subtle but distinct wall being built. This distance is not always obvious. It might not look like outright rejection. Instead, it is found in the small things. She shifts her body away when you reach for her. Her muscles feel tense when you hold her. She avoids the lingering moments of eye contact that used to come so naturally. It is her subconscious, protecting the emotional attachment she feels for another man while trying desperately not to give herself away to you. What is interesting is that women are masters at rationalizing their own behavior. She might tell herself, and you, that she is just tired, stressed, or not in the mood. But as a man practicing the discipline of perception, you must look for the pattern. Is this an occasional occurrence? Or does this emotional checkout happen consistently, almost exclusively after you have been intimate? That pattern is your clue. Imagine you have just spent the night together. Normally, she would rest her head on your chest or talk with you for a while. But suddenly, she immediately rolls over, grabs her phone, or insists she needs to sleep right away. She seems emotionally checked out, even though the physical act just happened. That jarring switch from a moment of intense physical closeness to a sudden, cold emotional distance can be a powerful red flag. It suggests her intimacy is being shared elsewhere, and her mind is in a state of profound conflict about it. A Stoic observes this not with panic, but with a quiet, clear-eyed awareness. Sign 2. Unusual glow or energy shift. Another sign that can quietly expose a woman who has just been with someone else is a sudden, unexplained shift in her energy, an unusual glow. Think about it. The experience of intimacy, especially when it is new, secret, or exciting, gives a person a different kind of spark. For women, it often shows up as a radiant mood, a playful energy, or that subtle afterglow that you can't quite put your finger on. Here is where it becomes tricky. A woman knows how to disguise this. She will try to act normal around you, but subtle differences will stand out if you are observant. She might seem unusually cheerful for no apparent reason, humming to herself, being more engaged with her phone, or carrying herself with a lighter, more vibrant demeanor. It is a type of happiness that feels out of place, because you sense that its source is not your connection. The glow does not just come from the physical act. It comes from the validation, the attention, and the illicit thrill of the secret. And if you are her primary partner, this glow may sting, because you will sense that the energy fueling her is not coming from you. Let's say you meet her after a regular workday. Usually she is tired or complains about how stressful her job was. But this time, she is practically glowing, smiling for no clear reason, lighter in mood, more playful than usual. When you ask her what is making her so happy, she shrugs it off or gives a vague excuse like, "Nothing, I just feel good today." That shift in her baseline energy, especially when it feels disconnected from anything you have done or any shared positive experience, could be a quiet signal that someone else has recently given her that emotional and physical boost. Sign 3: changes in how she touches you. Touch is one of the most honest and revealing forms of human connection. The way a woman touches you says a great deal about where her emotions and her attention are truly focused. When she is fully invested in you, her touch usually feels natural, present, and intentional. Whether it is reaching for your hand, brushing against you casually as you pass, or holding you a little longer during a hug. But when she has recently been with someone else, those small, unconscious moments of physical affection often start to feel different. You may notice that she avoids being as affectionate as she was before. Her kisses might feel shorter, less passionate, almost mechanical. A hug that once lingered now ends abruptly. Even in bed, the rhythm of how she holds you or responds to your touch may lack its previous depth and presence. It is not always about a complete withdrawal. Sometimes, it is the opposite. She might suddenly become overly affectionate in moments that feel out of character, as if she is trying to overcompensate for her guilt or mask the truth with an exaggerated performance of affection. What makes this shift stand out is the contrast with her normal behavior. When a woman is consistent, her touch aligns with her emotions. But when she is juggling different emotional connections, the energy behind her touch changes. It may feel hollow, distracted, or oddly forced. As a man, you can sense this. Intimacy is not just a physical act, it is an exchange of energy. And when her emotional energy is invested elsewhere, her touch reveals it. Even if she never says a word, it is that subtle disconnect you can feel but cannot quite explain. She is physically there, but she is not fully present with you. And deep down, you will know the difference between genuine, present affection and a touch that feels like it is just going through the motions. Sign 4: over, explaining simple things. One of the most interesting psychological shifts you will notice in a woman who is hiding something is the way she talks about the small, mundane details of her life. Normally, when someone is telling the truth, they keep it simple. They answer a question directly and move on, because the truth does not require elaborate support. But when guilt or the fear of being exposed creeps in, the story often comes with a flood of unnecessary details, extra explanations, and little side notes that do not really matter. With women, this often shows up when you ask basic, harmless questions. Something as simple as, "What did you do today?" suddenly prompts a 5-minute, play-by-play breakdown of her errands, her conversations, and moments that you never even asked for. At first, it might sound like she is just being open and sharing more. But if you listen closely, it can feel rehearsed or defensive, almost like she is trying too hard to make her story sound normal and airtight. The psychology behind it is simple. When someone is hiding something, silence feels dangerous. So they fill the space with words, hoping the over-explanation will act as a kind of camouflage. But ironically, the more they explain, the more suspicious it can feel. The energy is different. It is less about sharing and more about convincing. This does not mean every long story is a red flag. The difference is in the tone and the context. If it feels like she is laying out an alibi or presenting evidence for her whereabouts, instead of just casually telling you what happened, that is when you should take note. Men often overlook this sign because it sounds like honesty. But in reality, over-explaining is often a shield for guilt. The moment you sense she is giving you far too much detail for something simple, pay attention. It could be her subconscious way of covering tracks she does not want you to find. Sen 5 different scent or grooming habits. Scent is a primal and powerful sense that people rarely think about, yet it tells a profound story. When you are intimate with a woman, you become accustomed to her natural scent, her perfume, her shampoo, her lotion, even her unique body chemistry. That familiarity becomes part of the invisible bond you share. But when she has been with someone else, subtle shifts in her scent or her grooming habits can be a giveaway. Sometimes it is as obvious as catching a trace of a cologne that is not yours. Other times it is more subtle, like her suddenly feeling the need to shower the moment she gets home when she never used to, or layering on perfume in situations where it doesn't make sense. These small changes may seem harmless on the surface, but when they appear out of nowhere, they can signal that she is trying to cover something up or wash away a trace of someone else. It is not just about scent, though. Grooming habits can tell a story too. Maybe she starts putting extra effort into shaving, styling her hair differently, or wearing lingerie on random days when she previously did not. The attention to detail might look like self-care, but the timing is what matters. If these changes do not line up with any plans she has with you, then you must ask, who is this effort for? What makes this sign so powerful is that scent and grooming are hard to fake consistently. People might hide their emotions with words, but these physical changes leave traces that are difficult to explain away. As a man practicing Stoic observation, you do not need to become paranoid and sniff her clothes like a detective. But if your instincts are picking up on something unusual in how she smells, how she dresses, or how she prepares herself, trust that feeling. Those shifts are rarely random. Sign 6, quick mood swings or irritation, another telling sign, is when her moods begin shifting more rapidly than usual, especially in her interactions with you. Every relationship has its ups and downs, but when a woman has recently been with someone else, her emotional balance can feel unstable. She might seem cheerful and radiant one moment, and then irritated with you for no clear reason the next. This happens because the internal conflict between guilt and excitement creates a constant state of tension. On the surface, she is trying to act normal, but underneath she is juggling powerful, conflicting feelings, her established bond with you, and the fresh, illicit excitement she is getting elsewhere. That internal conflict leaks out. It manifests as a short temper, as unnecessary arguments, or as sudden moments of coldness that seem to come from nowhere. Small things that never used to bother her now set her off. You might feel like you are walking on eggshells, unsure of which version of her you are going to get from one moment to the next. At the same time, you may also notice moments of forced kindness or over-the-top affection sandwiched between these mood swings. One day she is snapping at you, and the next she is overly sweet, almost as if to make up for it or to soothe her own guilt. This back and forth is not random. It is often the direct result of her emotional energy being split in two different directions. The key here is not just noticing the mood swings themselves, but recognizing the shift in her established pattern. If she was normally a calm and stable person, but now she flips between irritation and affection with no real cause, it is worth questioning. Men often write this off as stress or hormones. But when it lines up with other signs we've discussed, it often points to something deeper. This is a very common experience for men, to feel confused and blamed for a woman's erratic moods when the real cause lies elsewhere. In the comments, I'd be interested to hear if you have ever been in a situation where you felt you were walking on eggshells, only to find out later that her emotional state had nothing to do with you. Sharing these experiences helps us all become more aware. The truth is, emotional consistency is hard to fake when you are living a double life. When her moods suddenly feel unpredictable and are often directed at you without a logical reason, it may be less about what you are doing and more about where her mind and her heart have been. Sign 7, inconsistent stories about her day. One of the most subtle yet telling signs is when a woman's stories about her day start to conflict with each other. Everyone forgets small details from time to time, but if you notice repeated and significant inconsistencies, it is worth paying close attention. When a woman has recently been with someone else, she may try to cover it up with half-truths, vague answers, or shifting explanations about her day. It is rarely about telling a single, elaborate lie. It is more about the mental juggling act required to keep two separate narratives straight. And that juggling act is exhausting, which leads to mistakes. Her narrative can wobble. She might forget a detail she already told you, or the details might change slightly each time she mentions an event. For a man who is paying attention, these small contradictions begin to add up and form a pattern. You will notice inconsistencies. She may suddenly claim to be too busy at a time when she is actually free, or she might mention places and people that do not quite align with what she said earlier. Simple questions like, "Where were you today?" or "Who were you with?" can trigger stories that feel rehearsed, uncertain, or that seem to be missing key pieces of information. This is not about creating paranoia or interrogating her. It is about simply observing what feels off. Human behavior leaves clues, and inconsistencies in a person's story are one of the clearest indicators that they are juggling secrets. When this sign is paired with the others, a change in her touch, her mood, or her energy, it becomes a powerful pattern that you cannot ignore. The takeaway is simple. Trust your observations and your reason. If her stories about her day suddenly don't add up, it is a signal worth noting. Men who overlook this often find themselves surprised later, only to realize that they sensed something was wrong all along, but chose to ignore the evidence. Sometimes, no matter how much you care, a woman has already checked out mentally, emotionally, or physically before you even realize it. That unusual glow, the sudden distance, the subtle shift in her touch or her energy, these are not always about you. And here is the difficult truth. Staying blind to these signs is what keeps good men trapped in relationships where they are no longer the priority. But this guide is not intended to make you paranoid. A Stoic does not waste his energy on anxious suspicion. It is about awareness. I want you to recognize these patterns, not to obsess over them. I want you to understand the reality of human psychology on a level that most men never will, so that you can protect your own peace. This should not be a one-sided conversation. I want to hear from you. Comment below. Share your experiences with these subtle signs. Tell me what you have noticed. What has confused you in the past? This is a space where men can share, learn, and gain real insights from one another. If this guide has sharpened your perception, then like this video. Share it with a man who needs to learn to trust his own intuition. And of course, subscribe to the Stoic Manhood Guide. Because remember, the signs are subtle, and missing them can cost you more than you think. But we are just scratching the surface here. In the next video, we will dive even deeper into female behavior, the things she never says, but shows in every action, and how you can learn to read them like an open book. Until then, stay observant and stay grounded in your own truth.